Welcome to today's episode of Fat Cat Productions of News with a View. This is February 28th, 2025, and this is episode 42. Today, we're just going to keep to about three topics. Epstein saga continues, DOGE legal challenges, and the firing of appointed government officials. When I say appointed, they're appointed and confirmed by the Senate. Well, appointed by the president, confirmed by the Senate. So it is hard to fire those people. And that's just a fact of life. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the courts, because that's part of the Humphreys ruling, Humphreys executive ruling, from FDR. I mean, that goes back a long time. All right. Now, the Epstein saga is actually my story. So this is not from anyone. This is pulled from all the sources. The FBI issues a slowed down Epstein disclosure. When I say issue slow down, it didn't contain everything that was available to the Attorney General. So, Attorney General Bondi sent a letter to the FBI Director Kash Patel questioning the agency for failing to turn over all of Epstein's files. In a letter, she claimed she had unintentionally misled the media and called for an investigation by the FBI and demand that the FBI turn over all files pertaining to the Epstein investigation by 8 a.m. Friday, today. So she has an apparent issue now with the FBI. Now, Attorney General Bondi stated, "I repeatedly questioned whether this was the full set of documents response to my request and was repeatedly assured by the FBI that we had received the full documents. Then late Wednesday, I learned from a source," and again, tell us your source, "that the FBI field office in New York was in possession of thousands of pages of documents related to the investigation and indictment of Epstein. And despite my repeated requests, the FBI never disclosed the existence of these files." Now, yeah, my allergies now are acting up. I wasn't sick enough with a cold, but now my allergies are acting up because it's been 60, 70 degrees, almost 80 degrees here the one day. So, pollen. All right, despite my repeated request, the FBI has never disclosed the existence of these files. Kash Patel reportedly blamed unidentified FBI agents in New York for withholding these files, but a source close to the FBI, and this is as reported in the Miami Herald, now I'm quoting out of the Miami Herald, and told the Herald that nothing had been held back, and the dispute was part of a larger plan to clean house in the agency's New York office, which has long been in Trump's crosshairs. Now, that's an interesting statement that was made and then relayed by the Miami Herald. So what they're saying is that the FBI office in New York is running rogue and not sending the requested paperwork, and that is required by them. Now, Kash Patel has been director of the FBI for less than 2 weeks and took over an agency that has been accused of being weaponized by agents loyal to those who opposed to President Trump for years. The director stated he would investigate those agents that have violated their mission as outlined by the FBI. So, Kash Patel has an organization that is not only hostile to the president, but hostile to the Department of Justice. And if it is revealed that the New York office withheld this information, then everyone in that office that had access to that, meaning that that was their assignment or they knew, and that knowingly withheld that information, should be fired immediately and brought up on charges. So, just can't do that. Now, excuse me, some of these people probably already know that they've been uncovered. And my belief is that there is so much going on and stuff being shredded. And we had this issue, remember, with Iran Gate, same thing. People doing things and shredding stuff. So the FBI has two major problems going on. One, agents that are running rogue, and two, people protecting those agents. So you have an office maybe in New York that needs to be cleaned out. And I guarantee you, if the office in New York needs to be cleaned out, they need to look at the office in Chicago, the office in Los Angeles, the office in San Francisco, because since the time of Obama, they had time to plant seeds, and those seeds now have taken root and have grown and have flowered. The FBI might have to do really what Kash Patel said he wouldn't do, and that's a purge. But if Kash Patel didn't know that this was going on when he spoke to the Senate, hey, I said I wasn't going in there and going, every third person, you're fired. That's a purge. To go in there and find out that every third person was violating their mission statement of the FBI, guess what? Every third person is then gone. And of course they have to prove it, and it has to be beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's where polygraph tests come in. Can't use them in a court of law, but we can certainly figure out 90% of the liars and go from there. And if they want to then challenge it, they can challenge it. We have to have an FBI that, one, obeys the laws, and two, obeys the administrations that are running them. As long as they comply to the law. Asking for the files is a lawful act. Telling the FBI to go murder people is not a lawful act. So, there's the line. You want to draw a real hard line and have a, not only it's a line, it's a wall. You can do that. But I think Kash Patel is finding out just how bad the problem is. And he's going to send, guess who, to the New York office. He's going to send good old Dan Bongino. I keep calling him Bon Jovi. Bongino. He's going to send Dan Bongino to New York and investigate this. because that's going to be his right-hand guy, and he's going to go in there. And believe me, if that's not happened already, I'd be shocked. And we'll see what happens. I have not looked to see if she had gotten it, and I was up at 7:30 this morning doing this, so I wasn't looking for late-breaking news. If this says broke already, I haven't looked. I haven't seen it. I don't have my tablet on. So let's go to item 2, because I said I'm going to try to make this a short one for a Friday. When I say short, 45 minutes. And this is from the Daily Beast. Load the beast, huh? Judge slaps down Trump's plan on mass firing of federal workers. And a lawsuit filed by a coalition. I wish I could have my little prompter going, but a lawsuit filed by a coalition of labor unions and organizations alleged that the OPM, and that's the Office of Personnel Management, directly ordered federal agencies to fire probationary employees despite not having the authoritative precedent to do so. And this was underscored by U.S. District Judge William Alsop in court Thursday. The OPM does not have the congressional authority to hire or fire employees outside of its own out of its own agency. And employees and agencies outside of its own temporarily block the Trump administration from ordering agencies to carry out the mass firings of some employees. So what the district judge Alsop ruled was that the OPM wasn't the agency that could fire people. Now, a little bit later on in here, I will give some information. The Office of Personnel Management does not have the authority whatsoever under any statute in the history of the universe. Now, already I know that this judge is grandstanding, all right, to hire and fire employees within other agencies. Alsop said while explaining his ruling, it can hire its own employees, yes, can fire them, but it cannot order or direct some other agency to do so. So he's saying that, the OPM inside its own organization has the right to hire and fire and do what it wants. So Alsop scheduled a hearing in 2 weeks to hear from key identities in the cases, including Charles Essel, the acting director of OPM, and that was according to NPR, because we could always trust NPR. Now, if you go and look up inside the U.S. Code, 5 U.S. Code, 7106, and I've used this statement before, and it's called management rights. And there's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo here, but it's really quite simple to understand. To implement might be a different story. So, under A, lowercase a, subject to subsection lowercase b of this section, nothing in this chapter shall affect the authority of any management official of any agency. So, what they're saying is any management official of any agency. So he's saying that OPM is not the management of, in this case, it's the Federal Consumer Protection Board. So they're saying, just using that heading, OPM does not have the right to hire and fire different agencies. So, to determine the mission, budget, organization, number of employees, and internal security practices of that agency. So, what this is also hinging on another issue of what, well, that just sounded differently. I don't know. Did my headset change? Or my ears click? No, what happened is my headphones changed. And they're actually working the way they should have worked, but they're not now. So, what has happened with this Section A, subject to Section B, nothing in this chapter shall affect the authority of any management official of any agency. This is a wide spread code to say that every agency has its management, and that management is different from the management of another agency. So OPM can't order the firing of of another agency's group of people. And that's what this judge is actively using as his reasoning of doing what he's doing and questioning and putting everything on hold. Because remember, it's only a 2-week hold. And I said in 1, to determine the mission, the budget, the organization, number of employees, and internal security practices of the agency. And in 2, parentheses, in accordance with applicable laws. And then in capital A, to hire, assign, direct, lay off, retain employees in the agency, or suspend, remove, reduce in grade or pay, or take other disciplinary actions against such employees. So they're saying only the agency inside itself, meaning that you can't order, the agency top director from OPM can't tell the director of the Federal Consumer Protection Board, can't jump over him and tell and say these people have to be fired. Now, under B, which remember I said in management rights subject to Section B, and that's to assign work or make determinations with respect to contracting out and determining the personnel by which agency operations shall be conducted. So again, they're saying only the management of the agency, of agency A, can affect agency A. It can't affect agency B. Here's what the problem is. You have a presidential executive order, and that is to be treated like the law inside the executive branch. So OPM can then have the power. The president can give the power and say, hey, OPM, send the letters out and fire these people. I feel a higher court is going to say that the executive branch can determine hiring and layoffs within agencies. I think it will be very difficult for the unions and anyone else to say anything differently. Now, he can't do that at the Justice Department. Can't do that. That has to go through their divisions. And that's the three branches. So I feel that whereas the president is the highest agency in the land, as far as they're concerned, and the president can order and direct the agency's directors to carry out this order or direct it himself. So Trump can say, yeah, I don't need the director to do this. I'm ordering it, and they must follow the executive order. It's never been done before like this, but the power is very clear. And the Supreme Court has already said, the president can act within the authority. I think a higher court is going to turn around and say, nah, you could sue civilly, have at it, but as a matter of breaking the law, and even Judge Alsop had stated that the actions was likely unlawful. He didn't say it was unlawful. He didn't say that what was done was illegal, because unlawful then would be illegal. He's just saying that on the surface, it looks like it did not follow the procedures set forth. Now, if you go in and this guy, I don't know what I didn't look him up, but it's going to get turned down, the saying that, while Trump can't, or any president can't, go in and go, hey, I'm going to overrule the judge. That's not going to happen. But I think what a higher court will do is saying that Judge Alsop failed to take into the highest agency in the land is the president. He's the highest in the executive branch. There is no higher. And he can do this. And I think the Supreme Court has already stated he has the power to do this. Now, you can then go to the Supreme Court with this. And the Supreme Court might say, hey, lower court, we've already ruled on this. You want to bring it now again in front of the Supreme Court, go ahead. And until you do it, and until we hear it, you can fire whoever he wants to fire. As far as inside the scope of his authority. Because remember, those people, and that's another case that's going on, those people that have been picked by prior administrations, even picked by him. He fired some people that he had picked in his prior administration that stayed on. And he fired them. When you have Senate confirmation, then you have a whole different set of rules you have to go through. Unless you could prove malfeasance. And, Biden did that with the railroad workers inspector general. He fired him. And that did not have to go for any approval. They had shown that he had made it that there was workplace harassment, made a hostile workplace, and he was let go. So it can be done, but there are hard reasons why. And you just can't go in there and fire him because he's not my guy. Sorry, that's just the way it works. And Biden didn't do that. This was set way a long time ago, yesteryears. and that's where the Humphreys executor ruling by the Supreme Court, and I want to say, 1934 or something like that. Someone that Coolidge appointed and FDR wanted him out because I didn't get a harumph from that guy when I was doing the New Deal. So there are lots of reasons, and that case, the Humphreys executor, really was put to bed because FTC chairman Humphreys died during this whole legal process. His wife picked up the suit, and the ruling was from the Supreme Court that he could not have been fired in the manner he was fired for. And as such, the government just paid the wife whatever he was going to be salaried out. And good riddance to you. I wanted the guy gone. He died. God must be on my side. And it was settled by death. So, if Humphreys would have lived, FDR could not have fired him. He'd have to put him back in the position. And I think what's going to happen in some of these cases, that's going to be the case. You can't fire them unless you can show malfeasance. Now, I don't know how easy that is to do or how hard it is to do. Yeah, or do they have it and, I don't know. Don't know. But I might not want to find out either. All right. So we'll go from that. And on the surface, the OPM can't fire another agency. But the OPM can be directed by the president to send out those notices, and then the president override whatever the director is of the Federal Consumer Protection Board. And that director has to follow the orders of the president. And failure to do that in a legal manner, and they can downsize. And, the director can go, hey, listen, this is really going to hurt us. And, boom, and he could have a say. But at the end of the day, the president can go, yeah, I hear you. I understand what you're saying. By Friday, these guys have to be gone. Now, if you don't like it, and you can always resign, or you can work with me in this administration. If you feel that you cannot work with me and you just want to fight with me all the time, I'll just overrule you with executive order. So you can play nice, you can play your way, or you can play my way. You know what they say about the way? My way or the highway. Now, I don't say that is right. And this comes down to could and should and would. But the Trump administration is going to cut down to the bone, and when they hit the bone, then they'll back off. Not the best way to do things, but in the business world, we've seen this done all the time. Cut until it hurts. And then, we could always put a Band-Aid on it and sew it back up, and yeah, it leaves a scar, but in the end, we're all better. Again, not how I would do it, I'd get all my ducks in order first. But Trump is afraid that if he were to take the time to do it in a way that would not be so harsh or coarse, it would give time for the other side to legally challenge things and then slow the process down even further. And Trump will take going to court. And he'll listen to the court. The Supreme Court, he said, I'll listen to the courts. I've always listened to the courts. But he gets also to challenge the court. So that's a pretty good deal. And it works both ways. So people can challenge Trump, and then Trump can take it to the courts. And that's the way the system is supposed to work. All right. From NBC News comes judge orders DOGE employees to testify in lawsuit against the Trump administration. A federal judge Thursday ordered at least one official from the Elon Musk Department of Government Efficiency to testify and provide documents in response to a lawsuit against the Trump administration by the American Federation of Labor and other unions. Now, in his ruling, this is the judge, and that was Judge Bates. I'm sorry. Yeah, that was Judge Bates. In his ruling, and it's not a ruling, it's a suit, and he hasn't ruled anything, he just said the suit can continue and they're allowed to have a deposition. It's a civil suit. And, they're allowed to have a deposition. So, Bates said the request for information will not overly burden the DOGE officials tasked with responding to the order. Wait a little bit further down. The written discovery largely seeks only individuals' identities, dates, and names of systems, as well as documents that defendants' own declarations have referenced. So, what the court is saying that they can ask, they could request in their discovery, seeks individuals' identities. Now, I'm assuming that the individuals that they're asking for are the people doing the DOGE work. And the names of the systems, which is a fair question. I'm using the IBM System 32, and that talks to System 31, which talks to System 22. So they can see exactly what information does System 32 contain. That System 31, and we'll get there in a second, doesn't. That you had to go from this system to this system to this system to a file cabinet. Give us the order and tell us what information was being garnished from each one of these systems. And dates that you looked, and dates that you used as the scope of your investigation. So let's say if they said, well, I want to look from everything from 2014 to now, the government might turn around and the lawyers go, why? Well, the IRS only goes back 7 years. Tell us, what you're doing. You're going back, 9 years, or 12 years or whatever. What is the scope of the investigation? And they could turn around and say the scope of the investigation is fraud. And we can go back. Where fraud is involved, there is no statute on. So, now, you could argue how many exams did that organization have, and the fraud should have been picked up, and if it wasn't, it's too late now. And in most cases, dealing with the Department of Labor, it's 5 years. So my belief is they're going to be looking back 4 years. And that's basically what they're going to be doing. But who knows? You don't know what you don't know. They might say, hey, we went back 20 years. We went back to whatever information was inputted into that machine. Don't know what you don't know, and that's why it's called discovery. Now, I have a problem with some of it. And I don't think that the names of employees should be used. Now, you could say the names of the supervisors or the department heads, because that's generalized information. It's a matter of public record. You can make that claim. At least really top management is known. Individual people, I think that would be a stretch, because those people then could have people show up at their houses and, who knows. So I don't think that that's it, that if I was the government, I challenge that ruling. On the documents that the government is requesting, I would say that the unions and these other people don't have a right to that information if it's deemed by a third party looking at it that it contains information in a pending litigation matter or security. You can't look at those documents. And as of right now, we're looking at everything as a possible case for litigation. So until we're done with our investigation and audit, or whatever you want to call it, you can't get any documents. You can't get any names. And, you just can't have that information. So the names of the the names of the systems that they're accessing, and the line by line information contained in there, that shouldn't be a problem. But everything else, no. And the administration should go there and go, we're possibly looking at charges against people. And as such, until we go through this information, and if the court wants us to come back in 90 days and with a preliminary finding, and those people that we have in that 90 days have decided to pursue in, to go further and go to possibly Department of Justice with, you're not getting that information. Just not getting it. It's an active case. The people that we looked over and said, absolutely nothing wrong with this. We couldn't find anything. We looked at it and very vanilla. Sure, we'll give you those. We'll give you that. But just so you know that if people know that they're on the list and their names didn't show up in the ones that are vanilla, that also doesn't mean that, after we get the information that we're requesting or looking at further, that there was nothing wrong. We don't want to impugn them. So we want to be very careful with this, but we will keep the courts involved with it and go from there. And this could also be, looking at this could be looking at other matters, not only with those facts, but in the hiring practices and everything else, they might want to look at that and move on from there and figure out if anything bad was done. And having to look at what DOGE is looking at, they might go there and go, hey, listen, we don't want other people to possibly take information and hide it from us or make it much more difficult for us to find. And as such, but in this case where we're doing some of these looks, we're using this system and these computers to do our work. And that there's another agency looking at what we're doing, and there's oversight. We're not just ripping out files, throwing them on the floor, and so I think that the government, the administration, should definitely answer this in a very direct and hard way. And, in a sense, drag it out through the courts. But in the meantime, I can still do what I'm doing. You can't stop me. You can't stop me. And Bates had said, signaled a particular interest in the structure of DOGE and the scope of its authority. Factors, he said, is critical in determining whether its employees are permitted by the Privacy Act to view individual information. So in saying that, when they say seeks only individuals' identities, it could be who they're looking at. And if that's the case, we're looking at people that we might have litigation against. So you're not getting that information. Not now. So this is more of people higher up who want to know, like Maxine Waters, who came out right across the table and said, we don't know what they got on us. Well, yeah, you don't. And if it's anything illegal, you will, because you will be charged. So we don't have to announce in a band down the street who we're looking at. And that's going to be an argument. And this is all part of more than 20 lawsuits, including one that directly accuses the organization of violating federal laws requiring transparency, which is a joke, because what DOGE is doing is actually looking at that transparency where these people are trying to hide the facts from people. So isn't that interesting that they cry on one side, how it's unfair because they're not being transparent about a department that wasn't transparent to begin with, and they're looking into that. It's like a person who murders their parents a child murders their parents and then goes to court and asks the court to have mercy on them because they're now they're orphaned. Do you see the irony in that? Does anyone see the irony in that? And this is exactly what these suits are about. Labor unions fighting on the behalf of the Democrats, telling them and directing them to fight this and how to fight it. And I'm sure those labor unions are getting help not only from their legal departments, but external ones on, which direction that they can go and should go and to fight this. And I've said individual identities, dates, and names of the systems, as well as documents that the defendant's own declarations have reference, will be subject to this deposition. I think the administration should argue that names of employees or anyone on that list are a violation of the Privacy Act of these employees and the people on that data. It's one federal agency looking at another agency. It's that simple. The IRS does this every day. It goes to the Department of Labor. It has tentacles that can go out and look and gather and put it all together in a nice little bundle. They have the right to do that. And the release of these documents, I think, is an overreach by the suit and also a violation of the Privacy Act, as documents have nothing to do with the authority of these employees to access such records. And the administration should use the courts to challenge this court order. And that's really what they need to do. They need to fight fire with fire. They want to use the courts as a tool in their toolbox. Use the court back. Use it back on them. And what they're doing now is they want to overload the administration, as the administration has overloaded the agencies involved. So, works both ways. Understand that. I think in the end, these unions will lose a lot of these things. There's some things that they're right about. Notice and the people that were confirmed by the Senate. There's certain precedences in there that you just can't wipe away, and they're done for the same reason why, like the Federal Reserve Board, the president can't replace the chairperson of the Federal Reserve. Can't fire him. Can replace him if there's an opening or whatever, but and then nominate him through. But he can't just go there and, I don't like you, you're out. And I think a lot of these other people, they had that same protection. And I think that Trump knows that at worst, he'll be told in court, hey, you can't do that. And that's it. You're screaming we're going to impeach him. No, he's doing his authority as the president, and you have the right to challenge it. And if you win that challenge, well, that's what happens. He has to do what the court says. And then, that's just him doing his duty and his performing, presidential, actions. You can't impeach him for that. You could, if he refused to uphold the Constitution, But challenging the Constitution, no, that's perfectly allowed, folks. And I think if, the Democrats start screaming that, I think come midterms, if they're still fighting that'll be absolute destruction for them. And it's just it's a bad look on the Democrats. Get your act together, fellas, but, change the script. You're not following a good script. All right. The firing of government official employees, meaning those that have been confirmed by the Senate. And that's the one where I said, you have to follow the rules set forth. And you don't have to like those rules, and you can challenge them in court. Personally, I think you're pissing in the wind. But you can do it. You can do it. And I don't think Trump will win that. That's one of them that I said, don't think you're going to get to the finish line on that one, Donald. So, DOJ doubles down on Supreme Court intervening in Trump's firing case. The Justice Department doubled down on its demand that the Supreme Court step into green light President Trump's firing of government whistleblower office head, warning in a Wednesday letter that he's still wielding executive power. So we are talking about Hampton Dellinger. That's what we're talking about. And last week, the High Court, and this is according to, I think this is also the Hill. Might not be the Hill. Might be the Hill. I gotta keep remembering going back there and timestamp these things. But in this article, the High Court last week punted on the emergency motion to immediately terminate U.S. Special Counsel Hampton Dellinger, keeping him in his post in what has become the first major test of the new administration's effort to consolidate control over federal independent agencies. And those independent agencies are the agencies where those people are then nominated by the president, confirmed by the Senate. And usually they're to 5 through 10 year terms, so that no one can politically influence them. And it's a good law, and it has been respected by presidents. FDR didn't respect it, and Donald Trump does not respect it. So, what the Trump administration now is saying, in short, a fired special counselor is wielding executive power over the elected executive's objection to halt employment decisions made by other executive agencies. That's a tongue twister. So what the administration is saying, we fired him. And you want to take it to court, that's fine. Take him to court, and we'll see where we land with. But in the meantime, he's fired. He's gone. He has no more power. He's got nothing. By keeping him in office, someone that we fired is now making executive decisions that interfere with our policies. And I just feel that is a true statement But again, the administration has fired someone that didn't meet the bar to be fired. This is, it's the pot calling the kettle black, but that person has the right to keep their job, unless you can prove otherwise. And you have to prove it. You have to bring articles. You have to have, this person has a right to defend themselves too. And it's a major problem for the Trump administration because they know this guy is so well deeply planted that anything that the Trump administration does, this guy will just balk at. And if they said it's white, it's black. If it's black, it's white. And nothing will get done. Well, that's why they put a lot of these people in there, so that if there's a change of power, that the effect of that change can only go so far and so fast. And again, Trump is not respecting that. And I'm the first one to say that, unless you can prove that this person was doing stuff that he should not have been doing, then you have if he was doing that, then you have a right to show that, and boom, and you're fired. Then he can fight those charges. But in the meantime, this is what I got right here. And he's fired. But unless you can do that, then you gotta, you can't. You can't do that. Unless that person goes, listen, I'm just going to resign. And then, that's fine too. But I think, and believe me, I'm no friend of these people. These people are all bad people. They're bad actors. But we have rules. And we have procedures. And, you got to do what the procedures say. And if you can't get to the bar to say in those procedures to remove him, then you're just going to have to live with this guy or gal and leave it like that. So I think that DOJ doubles down on the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, again, when you go to the Supreme Court, you better be prepared for a ruling that goes against what you thought you were going to get. And then once they get the ruling, then all the other people that were Senate confirmed that were fired, they're covered under that umbrella. And if that's what you want to do, go ahead and do it. But understand, there are consequences for your action, and it goes both ways. So, Donald Trump, please be careful. Don't overreach. And if you're going to do stuff like this, I would want all my ducks in order. I'm not happy on how he's handling DOGE. I think that could be handled a lot differently and in a way that it would be almost impossible for anyone to disagree with that. And even Schumer had said, listen, we all know there's waste in government. I mean, he came out and said it. And, and he said, but there's ways of dealing with it and, fixing it. I think a lot had to do with USAID. That money that was going out there and coming back and around to other people and lining pockets, major issue. I have no problems with that. I do have, like I said, the consumer but the Federal Consumer Protection Agency, a Bureau, yielded way too much power, but it was necessary to have them yield some power. And we've seen banks just, for the most part, banks do the right thing because, they want to stay in business. But there are some banks that have been opened just for the purpose of taking investor money. And when I say investors, when you give money to a bank, you are an investor in that bank. You're keeping your money there. And what a lot of these banks know is that money is going to be insured. And when we write loans, we only have to write them to the minimum prescribed in the safety standards and of writing paper. There's a real name for it, and you have to prove that your lending policies conform to safe and sound practices. And there are minimums that must be prescribed. Collateral. But if you took a piece of property and valued it, and this was the complaint made against Trump, and you said it's worth $8 million, and you look in any of the recent sales in the area, and they go, yeah, they listed it for $8 million and they took $4.2 million, then really the safety and soundness of that lender would take another 20% off that and say that the real value is like $3.4 million, not 8. But you could have other people in the lending world turn around and go, yeah, okay, you say it's $8 million and we're going to take you on the word. And then they might look and they go, well, people are asking for $8 million for it. So, they're asking for it. They might get it. Who knows? I don't know if they'll get it or not, but they're asking. And why would they be asking if they can't? Wouldn't they make it for more, realistic numbers, because they'll have no one look at their property. But that's done a lot of times. Smart people will do that, and people would turn around. I'm not paying $8 million. I'm not even looking at that property. I'll go to the next ad. But you could have enough of those properties salted in the area to go, maybe the people selling for 4 don't realize they can get 8. Maybe that's a fire sale. I don't know. But that's what people are asking for. And that could be a sound business decision. So, but banking really does need to be monitored. If we're going to insure it, if we're going to insure our banking system with our tax dollars, then it should be able to withstand tests and inspections. And, just for the public safety. And, it's not called safety and soundness just because they didn't have words. It is in the public interest. If banks fail, then, is our government next? So we don't want people to have to question that. And I agree in an openness in the banking, but we also can't make it so ridiculously hard that they can't compete against non-banking entities. And you go, well, how can there be non-banking entities? There are non-banking entities out there that act like a bank but aren't a bank. Buying up housings, buying up properties, dealing in investments, money managers. You could have private equity firms that go out there and, lend money. Happens all the time. So, and you have to compete against that, and they don't have the same regulatory obligations because they're not insured. They have to follow a standard practice. They can't be, it can't be, the old loan shark type of thing. But you see the interest rates that they're allowed to charge, and you probably have a better time going to a loan shark and working out a deal than you are with some of these banks and paying 40% interest rate. And when you look at the fees you're paying, you're probably paying 52% interest. So yeah. All right, with that, I'm going to say this is it for today. Not sure if I'll have one tomorrow. If there's any breaking news today, I'll do something tomorrow on it. But I'm going to take a day off on it and, just relax a bit. As you can see, I fixed the focus. Yesterday, this camera was particularly soft. And I fixed that. And any of you that see this right there, the NCUA, which is the National Credit Union Administration, a branch of the federal government that I've dealt with for over 30 years. And support your credit unions. If you can join a credit union, join a credit union. You can join a bank too. Go to a bank. Why not have the opportunity to have two places to go to find a loan or to do banking or investments? Credit unions are fully insured, up to $250,000, just like a bank. The difference is a credit union pays as they go, different than FDIC, but is as safe as FDIC. All right, with that, I'm going to say good night. Say prayers for people. People just need prayers. Just make it general. Please help people that are floundering. And regardless if they believe in God or not, if they're asking for help or not, God is merciful and God hears us all. Even if we don't think He hears us, He hears us. And things happen for a reason. We might not be able to understand that. It's beyond our comprehension. But everything happens for a reason. And the promise is that when we meet God, we will be given those answers. All right. Give to charities if you can do it. Charity does begin at home. I realize that. Go to a charity that is registered and reach out to that charity. If they reach out to you, I'd be suspect. Don't become a victim helping victims. And with that, I'm going to try to fade to black here. I should be able to. Trying to get this keyboard up here so I can just glance down at it. Working on building a desk. It reminds me a lot about CBS having to fiddly make everything so that it fits. With that, I'm going to say goodnight as I fade to black.